are about to be live. Yes, we are definitely live. So, this is the first kind of episode of Mashup. I am part of the Fantasy Panda team doing their video, doing their audio. For this first one, it's going to be available to just anyone if you are listening live on the Daily Fantasy Summoner podcast channel. But the recording, the video, the visuals, all that is only reserved for our Fantasy Penta subscribers, and they will have access to this even afterwards. So it benefits for you to be live just to hear some of my crazy thoughts. And it's absolutely fantastic if you join in as a sub, because that means you'll get to watch this show, listen to this show at your convenience, right? These recording schedules, we're still trying to figure it all out. I am So for those who don't know me, my name is Prime LOL Chris Chung. I've been trying to get into the DFS League of Legends scene for quite some time. Had fun trying to kind of grow this. And part of the idea is also to not just the fantasy portion, the sports betting, but also getting recognition. Esports is a growing sport, and all the curmudgeon are holding us back. So I do want to make League of Legends a big deal here in North America, something that we can cheer for. We have great teams, guys. We have good structures. We can get excited about it, but we are still considered a minor fan base, even within the major regions. So if we can get more of you pumped up for League of Legends, that will be awesome. For those who are joining me live, you can definitely drop a comment on my Podbean channel, and any questions I can answer right away. So today, for free, for those who are listening live, you get a chance to kind of go through the slate with me. I am breaking down the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday slate. While we don't have the salaries breakdown yet, we can certainly garner from the betting odds how the salaries could be structured. I'll throw out some thoughts here. The best way through to win in daily fantasy League of Legends, right, is typically to go against Prime stats, because Prime has this amazing ability to curse chalks, right? Things that should not happen. Prime has a way to curse those teams. All right. Jokes aside, one of the fun things about League of Legends is in the early part of the season, for those who haven't been here yet, this is the best time to have great gains, great profit, but also it's a risk too, because there's great losses as well. I know this very much. And as we get towards the middle of the season, you'll get a little bit more lesser highs, but also lesser lows, because we have more stats, we have more understanding of how each team are coming together with their players. So that's kind of giving you an idea how to prepare yourself. GPP would be my kind of like favorite to have maybe like 50% of my entry. Don't take this as a contest entry advice. This is just how I'll do it. And just know that by the mid-season, we'll have a greater gearing towards maybe like a 70 30 80 20 type of split, or more towards like the cash contest. Yeah, we'll see how this season goes. I'm excited to kind of break down for us Monday. It's going to start off Monday. DraftKings just put up the slate after some encouragement. FanDuel has its slate up since Friday and already have the players priced. Although I don't have access to FanDuel, I will talking to be strictly from a DraftKings standpoint. And maybe if you would like to dabble yourself in XP Fantasy, which I think is fun to play, win some small prizes. That's where I get a lot of my Riot points, right? And I can win Riot points. I can win Hex Text from XP Fantasy. They have their own style of, DFS as well. I think it's fun, although it's only growing, so they have a lot of kinks to work out. But for the purpose of our subs, for the listeners, DraftKings is primarily where I would like to focus on. So let's talk about Monday slate. Let's dive into it. The players on DraftKings have not been priced yet as of the recording. Just reserve your spot. It's a couple of cheap contests, $1, 25-cent, 10-cent contests. It's a great way to get your feet wet and definitely have fun with it, because we have no idea how things will turn out. Monday, Tuesday, and just Monday and Tuesday will be short slates. So expect a lot of overlap maybe, or find yourself knowing that chalk would probably not be as profitable, but that doesn't mean that we just move away from it. We just got to temper expectations. If you get right with an upset, this is where big opportunity is for you to earn a lot of profit. And just take chances. I think this is the best time to do so. So be a good bankroll manager. If you need advice on how to bankroll manage, hit up Cal, hit up Naldo Senpai, hit up Ethan or Mr. Malmanger. They were all going to help you with that. Corey and of course big coach Nick from the FI. Great people to talk about bankroll management and contest selection. So without further ado, let's dive into the Monday slate. We have OMG against Thunder Talk Gaming. As we can tell from the Bovada odds, OMG is priced at minus 400. Thunder Talk, a big underdog at plus 280. The second game, Fallen plus Phoenix at a plus 180 versus RNG at a minus 240. So noting this is how the salary likely will break down. OMG is going to be the most expensive of the slate, which is unfortunate. I think they're not as strong of a team, but I also think that they have the best opportunity to win. So maybe it makes sense. I just thought that DraftKings would be focusing on big names like Fun plus Phoenix and RNG as one of the bigger and more greater talent, top tier teams or top tier game of the slate. So expect Aki, Shanji. I'm hoping it's Shanji. We'll get a roster confirmation on Sunday night. But Shanji, Aki, Cream, Abel, those will be my targets for OMG. 4 stack them, 3 stack them. And then the second game is one where I've made a personal, call out, and Naldo Senpai is going to really love this because he is going to invest his mortgage on RNG because I'm going against the grain. I'm taking my chance here in the first game. I know it's crazy. Fun plus Phoenix. They added Clid to their jungle, which should solidify a little bit, but I still think the Beishuan would actually be a better higher upside jungler that could disrupt RNG. In all seriousness, I think RNG should win this matchup. I don't mind if you go RNG 4 stack in certain contests, maybe the single entry or the 3 max entry. Go with a 4 stack RNG of players, and we like Xiao Hu. He's the mainstay. Gala, who should be the higher score. And then it's between Wei and Bin. Is it Bin? I'm sorry. Yeah, at top. And so just something to note that they could get a little expensive, and I don't mind then if you would rather play the correlation stack of Gala and Ming. So Bin could be a one-off in the short stack if you don't play the correlation with RNG. Bin, Wei, then that saves you a lot of money. Then you can play Cream and Abel. Sorry. Keep wanting to call Steel. Steel could still play. We have to watch out for that with the schedule. I mean, the roster breakdown, because Steel had been the one that's playing in Demacia. There were some issues with Cream. I think it was health related, but he should be healthy. If we get the full rosters of OMG, I think they should present the most upside, but that doesn't mean that RNG can't outscore them in this format. So the slate is close-ish. It's a little bit top heavy, but it doesn't mean that you can not be unique from others. So let's go down to the Tuesday slate. We are looking at JDG at plus 475 versus EDG at minus 800, which makes sense because EDG, the current world champ, strong roster. They come back with their players, and JDG, who many think have weakened, but not too significantly. I do think this line is a little bit way too heavily EDG favorite. Do I think JDG has a chance to win? No, maybe not. Do they have a chance to surprise us and take away a game? Probably. So for you bettors out there, I think that this is a good game to kind of try out your plus 1.5 map bet, right? And then the second game is LGD against Anyone's Legend. And this is interesting. Anyone's Legend is the favorite here with minus 190, and LGD is a plus 145 dog. I think these two teams are much closer in terms of talent. Uh, it could still play out. If you're unsure, it could still play out like anyone legend wins, EDG wins, then you have your stack. Most people will go for EDG because they are afraid of anyone's legends roster or how LGD might play out. I think if you go away from that, if you go 4 players LGD or 4 players anyone legend, whoever you think will win, I think you set yourself up for a very unique roster creation. Overall, I do expect of Viper and Scout to be heavily owned along with either JJ or their top laner Flandre. JDG, if you do go that route, I do encourage you to at least throw a JDG stack in those 25 cent contests. What do you got to lose, right? 25 cent, 10 cent. Going for those ticket, you'll be unique immediately because I think and I believe wholeheartedly that you won't get more than maybe 10% ownership anywhere with JDG players. And for JDG roster, just for the sake of playing the early season volatility, you would want Yagao, you would want Hope, and Kanavi would be my 3 favorite. And then it's up to you to decide whether you want to play 369 or Missing. 369 is a good in real life player, but fantasy wise, often he's not the type to rack up the stats. And Missing could be a good cost per fantasy point type of play. Looking into the LGD and anyone's legend, we'll have to look out for their who's going to start between Betty and Zhang Wuji. Personally, I like Zhang Wuji as a higher upside play, but Betty gives anyone's legend a better chance at winning. From LGD side, I like Garvey. I'm sorry, it's Fearness. Garvey is the sub. Shadow, and then I'll have to figure out like whether they're gonna start Eric or Jinzhao, both of I think are talented ADCs. Eric is the younger of the player and only showed up well last year as part of a lesser team, right? But he did well. He did well overall. But Jinzhao is a solid veteran from Billy. Didn't play for the last year, so we don't know what he'll look like if he actually gets a chance to play. And then it's so interesting because Leaguepedia doesn't really show a true support for LGD. My guess it would be Chance, but right now he's listed as a sub with no real starter. That's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna be very interested in seeing what LGD runs out as their roster because that can help me go a little bit more heavy on the LGD side. Again, I'm playing this as a GPP slate. Uh, excuse me, maybe a certain amount of head-to-heads and double ups. I'll just play the chalk, which is EDG 4, EDG 3, anyone's legend. But LGD and EDG is going to be a big part of my GPP investment. Am I ready to lose money? Yes. And Fuhonki can attest to that. He will take all my money for that. So let's look into Wednesday slate. We finally have a wider slate. We are going to have both LCK and LPL. This is first day for LCK. Let's break down the LPL teams first. We have Rare Atom at plus 375 versus Top Esports at minus 600. Heavy favorite, not as heavy as the EDG from before, but still, it makes sense. I think Top Esports look great from top to bottom, pun intended. They did look terrible last year, even though they had a strong roster. But we're seeing a bounce back. I think Jackie Love, I think Knight are both strong plays. My curiosity is, are they running the veteran Tian, who everyone respects? I get it, but Xiaopeng is amazing. He's finally in a good team. Really didn't understand the Tian signing, but this will give us a glimpse of who they'll run out and pay attention to the roster release. Excuse me. So, TES should be a heavy favorite, should be heavy chalk here. A lot of people will probably go for TES players. Like I mentioned, Jackie Love Knight will be very popular, and then it's really depending on who the jungler is. If they start Tian, I might play Tian in more of single entry or cash lineups, right? But if it's Xiaopeng, I really would hammer that in GPP without a second thought. Hammer my cash lineup in a GPP without a second thought. And top is either Qin Tiang, Zoom, or Wayward. Wayward being the least likely. Qin Tiang is a solid mainstay for top esports. He proved himself well, but Zoom has a better fantasy upside. Someone will give up something, right? You can't have both Zoom doing well and Knight and Jackie Love and the jungler doing well. Something he'll have to give. So it this is where it boils down to. People call it variance. I call it luck. Pick the right player. Kind of try to picture how the game would play out, where the points will funnel, and build your lineup accordingly. For cash, you don't really care too much about upside, right? So you just stack your 4 top esports. The only caveat here is Rare Atom is not a team that gives up a lot of kill last year and has been playing with that mentality. I expect them to go into 2022 with the same type of mentality. They are weaker, quote unquote, than last year. They did add some interesting player, but overall, I think it's hard to see unless it's like early season volatility. Again, we don't rule out volatility in early season. That already takes the game. Yuan Jia maybe have his revenge game. Maybe. We'll have to see who starts. Then next game is Ultra Prime with plus 315 versus LNG and minus 475. Fun team. This team has Doinby at mid, and they have shown up to be pretty strong overall after adding Doinby. They have Tarzan at jungle, Light Iwandi or Liu Mao, and the support. Iwandi is one that has known to be scoring a lot more in fantasy terms, but Liu Mao is the better real life support, and so this is another team that you can go 4 stack. And they'll be less expensive than top esports. The difficulty in this slate is stacking top esport as LNG and expect to have a good captain. You're likely rostering a support at captain, or if you're lucky enough, there might be a mispricing due to DraftKings not knowing who's starting and the roster is released later. So be on the lookout for that. Ultra Prime is a up and coming team. I think they have their upsides, but they're not nearly as talented. I think just like their older name E-Star, they fizzled ish. They are trying to bring back some of the crew, but I just really don't know how, where, in which capacity they can beat LNG. From laning to mid game to objective control, everything should favor LNG. For LNG, Doinby, I think, played his absolute best statistic wise last year. We may see a regression, and so that's just a narrative that I'm looking out for. He may be overpriced. That's kind of where I'm getting at. Doinby may be overpriced based on name value, based on what he did last year, because he's never been the type to try and carry. I think he did it out of necessity last year because LWX took a huge step backward, right? So Doinby was a main carry for Fun Plus Phoenix last year. He may not be needed to ask to do so. He'll play his weird champ at mid, Nautilus. He'll play, Rumble, whatever it is, and play more of a facilitative mid laner. I think he's closer to Faker than he is to a Knight, for example, right? And so Tarzan would be my target. Light would be a priority over Doinby, but if you can get Doinby in your lineup, I would definitely go that route based on the salary that's given to you. Let's look into the LCK games. We have DRX at minus 210 versus Sandbox plus 160. This is very interesting. I think the books really kept up with the roster. Definitely on paper, I think DRX has a really good core of players, right? A core of talent. They brought in a lot of the older Genji players from last year, and then they also sort of put together a more solid team rather than rookies from last year. I was surprised that they are suddenly the favorite on this slate, and Sandbox is the underdog because Sandbox surprised us last year, right? Sandbox had a good, solid fundamentals. For DFS purpose, let me just cut that to the chase. This game is probably not something that you want to be on in your build. You can use a couple of one-offs in larger field tournaments just to be unique, but I don't expect a lot of points to be scored here. The team is viable, but expect DraftKings to price the LCK teams more expensive than the LPL teams because they know how ownership has been funneling towards towards those kind of constructions, so they're trying to make it harder. Understandable, I get it. You have to make it hard for us. Blah blah blah. Love you all. But Sliff Sandbox has Dove, Croco, Closer, Envy, and Kale on their team. None that really stood out except maybe Closer, who was formerly of T1. Still, this team was solid. So I think if we are looking for a salary saver, an upset, Sandbox would be one that I would go to. I would play their team slot and then mix with my favorite LPL. That would give me some salary saver, hopefully. And if you believe in DRX, there isn't really much. From what I'm seeing, there isn't really a lot of ways to build a DRX with a favorite LPL team, one of top esports or LNG, because the salary is going to be highly prohibitive. They are going to be the cheapest of the favorite, just because we'll talk about who's the other favorite in the slate. But DRX, I'm expecting the salary to break down. Top esports most expensive, LNG second most expensive, T1 third most expensive, and then DRX the least expensive of the favorites. And that could give you some good, I guess, salary opening. Even then, I'm not sure that they're great for like a 4-3 stack in cash, just because LCK continues to have low upside. You can pick two winners and still lose in this kind of slates, and so I caution against that. But that also tells us that DRX is not going to be highly owned. You want to play that ownership leverage? Go ahead, go for it. I encourage you to try it in the 25 cents, in the 10 cents, right? Just in the off chance that my thought is wrong, which is quite often, and that this game outscores an LPL game. How crazy would that sound? Next, we have T1 against Kongdu Freaks, or wait, is it Kongdu Freaks? Kwangdong Freaks. Sorry, Kwangdu is another team. Kwangdong Freaks. The renamed Africa Freaks is now Kwangdong Freaks. T1 at minus 300 versus KF at plus 220. This is a game that I can almost certainly rule out as being high scoring because T1 does not play that kind of style. It would be a great to watch and see if Prime is wrong. Yeah, Prime is wrong alert. You just throw that out there. Each time Prime is wrong, just take a drink, make this into a drinking game. But T1's approach has been to slow it down, kind of play really fundamental, good map control. T1 team would be a great for cash games. While Kwangdong Freaks have a volatility, they can sometimes pull off these upsets, or they are pushing the pace of the game. It could allow for this game to maybe hit their like 14, 15 kills, maybe a little bit more, 16, 18, maybe. If anything, if Kwangdong Freaks does win, they give you a very flexible salary that allows you to probably stack top esports with Knight at captain or Jackie Love at captain. I think that's fairly possible if you go the Kwangdong Freaks stack there. Overall, from a cash perspective, you're trying to fit in as many top esports and as many LNG, and then try to figure out, who your team is. Try and find a salary saver somewhere. We'll wrap it up with the Thursday slate. Start off with Invictus Gaming at minus 385 versus Thundertop plus 265. Now, this is not your grandma's Invictus Gaming. This is a whole new revamped. Yes, I can see why they are the favorite, but to be a minus 385 favorite, that is nuts. And they're mm, and the fun thing here is, even if you do believe in Invictus Gaming, I mean, not even, but if you do believe in Invictus Gaming, I don't think they're going to be the most expensive favorite in the slate either. And they're playing against one of the worst teams of the LPL. So I get it. I think that's that's okay to be stacking some Invictus Gaming in your lineup. I can see Jun being the mainstay for your lineup building. I totally believe in Invictus Gaming capable of winning this, but I also think that Thundertalk Gaming has a chance too. And so this is a game that can go either way. Likely not good for cash, but hey, GPP, go for it. Then we have Weibo Gaming versus WE. Weibo is favorite 230, minus 230 versus World Elite, but plus 175. Quite interested. It's not egregious, but I do think it's a little disrespectful to WE. Overall, this is maybe one of those LPL games that we lower our expectations for the upside scoring. Weibo loves the let's focus on feeding Huan Fang, give him resources. We don't take unnecessary fights. We'll just play around until, you know, Huan Fang's Jin or misfortune or whatnot gets to a hyper level, and then get those 2-3 items power spikes, and then we go for it. Still, overall, you do won't think. I would think the LPL teams would give you a better upside, but the safer best floor is actually the KT Roster versus Damwon Kia game, where Damwon Kia is favored by minus 400 and KT Roster plus 225. I know it's kind of weird to say that an LCK team would give you that safety, but Damwon Kia has been good for floor play, and for cash you can't go wrong. I do anticipate them to either be the most expensive or the second most expensive. Based on popularity, they would probably be the most expensive, but based on betting odds, they would be the second most expensive of the slate. And so there is a sense of safety there by playing Damwon Kia in your lineups in that stack. And I'm not ruling out KT. KT has improved their roster, and Damwon has actually been a minor downgrade. I don't think it's too big of a downgrade. I don't know what to expect from their top lane with Birdall or Hoya. One of them will be playing, but they kept Canyon, they kept Showmaker. They have the new bot lane with Dokdam and Kalen, who, you know, were really a good, were actually the only reason why Nongshim was so good last year was because of the bot lane. Speaking of Nongshim, they are minus 800 favorite against Hanwha Life Esports at plus 475. Hanwha is severely decimated at talent. I understand it. I'll be very surprised if Nongshim is super expensive, but it can happen based on the betting odds, and the betting odds will also dictate ownership. So you'll see a lot of people flocking either to Nongshim or Damwon, but people will still continue to roster an LPL team. So I think this is a great opportunity to go, Weibo, World Elite, Invictus, whatnot. You don't have to try too hard to be unique. That's kind of what I'm saying here. You don't have to try too hard to be unique. You can even throw your cash lineup into certain GPPs and expect some good wins if things play out like we expect. For the people who've been playing this for a while, we definitely have a bias to LPL games. And it's been a little bit back and forth last year. Some LCK games have been able to outscore some LPL games, and it's not as automatic as before. But during the 2018-2019 season, it's been easy to just stack LPL and watch other people try to chase favorites, chase betting odds, and just stack the wrong winners. Hopefully this gives you enough of an idea how to prepare for the slate. Our Fantasy Penta will have our articles up, we'll have our core plays up, and we will be able to serve you throughout the season. I'll be back to talk about LEC, LCS, who are both starting. We're still waiting for the final roster confirmation for the LCS. And then we'll talk about the weekend LPL LCK in the future. Stay tuned with us. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe. Join us this year. Our one and only Calbino is here to break down these wonderful slates for us from a DFS angle, and Naldo will give us the best angle for betting, sports betting. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Get excited, people. Get excited. League of Legends is back.